Hey there, people tuning into my Q50 content. Hey, this is had a discussion with a pretty moronic person today, and maybe a person a couple of weeks ago that was like, catch cans are worthless. They're stupid add-ons. If Infiniti was needed that, then they would have included that from the factory. It's a joke to get a catch can, and it's just so laughable. It's just so ignorant, or what's the other term? Arrogance. I mean, just wanting to be stupid. I mean, if you just do a catch can search on YouTube, or caked on dirty valves, GDI valves, direct injection valve cleaning, caked on carbon valves, I mean, you'll see thousands upon thousands of videos and people that experience this. And again, I've had two direct injection cars that were turbocharged, forced induction cars, and it's just reality. It's just reality. So you got to have a catch can that catches the PVC. The EPA mandates that cars have emission systems so the oil and things don't go out the gas pipe or get leaked onto the ground. Dangerous, hazardous for the environment, gasoline, toxins from inside the motor. A supercharger or a turbocharger increases the airflow, compression to the motor, more blow by from that air that goes into the combustion chamber goes, some of it slips by your piston rings. So when you elevate that from a turbocharger or supercharger, you get more air, compressed air into the motor, and it's got to go somewhere. So the PVC, the positive crankcase valve, and there's a crankcase valve on that side. The positive is on this side, if I'm not mistaken. That takes the pressure that's inside your motor that's built up, and when that vapor and the turning of the pistons and the rods and different things in the motor oil going high RPM and super hot, it turns into a vapor. So all that stuff that's inside the motor has to go somewhere when it's under pressure. And so the PVC system will run through, just without a catch can, will run and direct that hose directly back into the intake, and then it directly goes into your intake valves. And if you're a direct injection, the fuel injectors are inside the cylinder, not above the valve, the intake valves. So this is a direct injection car, so there's no fuel flowing over your valves to wash that oil and vapor that comes in and gets dumped into your intake valves. So over time, over 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20,000 miles, that oil that's on there that's not removed, it turns to a carbon, and that's kind of like it can be anywhere from semi-hard to extremely hard. And when you build up layers and upon layers and upon layers of that, then you get this stuff that looks like a cancer. If you've ever seen in school or anywhere you've seen people that have smoked their entire lives and their lungs, they do an autopsy and they open up and the lungs are black and nasty looking. I mean, that's what your intake valves look like. And the intake valves and your exhaust valves had a lot to do with how smooth your engine runs and your performance. If you've got crusty valves, and you can even get to the extent where your valves can't open and close properly, or close, because there's a small gap when the valve opens and the air's got to come out. If it's not a smooth flow or it's a restricted flow, you're going to suffer in performance and drivability. Rough idle, MPG is going to suffer all kinds of problems from dirty valves. And it can happen as quickly as, in my instance, where I drove a Ford Focus ST, and I was interested. I took the manifold off, and I looked in there, and I was amazed. I was blown away at how much carbon buildup there was in like 15 or 16,000 miles. It was ridiculous. And so I spent 2 or 3 days over a weekend cleaning those with solvents, and then immediately I got a catch can. I think it was a Diamond brand catch can. It was what they had at the time for that car. I've got a Mishimoto, and here's my catch can right here, the Mishimoto. And this is the only one that I will recommend or tell you to get, because All the other ones, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, do not. They just have a baffle. They have a baffle, and they promote baffle, 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 three baffle, triple baffle, quadruple baffle, and that is not the answer. That is helpful in addition to a diverter plate, little diverter plate that the air coming in, the hot vapor that has oil and condensation and other things in it, hits that diverter plate, and then it shoots it down, and then it shoots it down onto a baffle. But before that, or at the end of that, you need a filter, and this has a Micron filter, a 50 Micron filter. That's tiny, tiny, tiny. A micron, 50 microns, is captures moisture and vapor out of the air. Like, think about a compressor. If you're using your nail gun, you don't want moisture in your nail gun or your other hydraulic or air-driven tools, because it can potentially cause rust in your tools. Or if you're spray painting, you don't want moisture in your paint, so they use Micron filters to weed out the moisture in the air. So, I mean, can you just imagine weeding out moisture that we feel humidity in the air and capturing that? That's a pretty small micron, 50 micron, it's pretty small. But I'm gonna today just show you again, I have like 6 or 7 videos on catch cans for the Infiniti Q50. The Infiniti Q50 is its own car. Mercedes, VW, Audi, a lot of these cars have these issues, but they'll have it in different ways. I think I watched a video today just for enjoyment. A VW is putting more moisture into the oil catch can system. And the reason why you don't want moisture in there is that moisture goes in, it contaminates your fuel. It may be a small percentage, but if you're 93 octane tuned, you want 93 octane fuel, and you don't want to have it degraded by gas, extra foul gas that has escaped past the rings, or any other toxins or moisture diluting your 93 octane gas and the combustion explosion that happens. Hopefully you can understand that, because it's just purely simple to understand. But we're going to take this off. I'm not going to make you wait. I'm going to fast forward through this, and we're going to check my catch can contents. All right, now that we got it off, let me get a little clear container to stick that in. Again, this is not very long, and it's not a lot of miles. People's miles may vary depending on your temperature, how far you're driving, stopping and starting, lights, traffic, driving on the highway. There's lots of variables that'll change how much your catch can fills up. But if you're driving a fair amount of time, I would say check once a month. And then if you're not filling up your container as much as you think you are, then maybe you can stretch it out to 2 months or 3 months. It just depends. But there is a lot of oil in there and gunk that will, there's no way about it. It just goes into the intake, and it gets sent onto your intake valves, and then it sits there. And then when it's super heated, 200 degrees over and over again, it just turns to crust and almost like a carbon buildup. It's very hard to get rid of. So here, we're gonna get the bottle and put that in there and let you see it. All right, here's what I've had, just a baby food jar, because I don't know why I hang on to this stuff, but this is probably the last 2 times. This is I don't know what size ounce this is, but general baby food container. That's like 2 dumps in there into the container here. So we're just gonna take that off and pour what's in here. It's black, gooey. It's not good stuff. And there was even a female one time on a Mustang forum back when I was looking at Mustang GT 5.0s at 2017, 18, or 19, or I think it was the newer one, so maybe a 2018, that was bragging that she takes the oil from her catch can and immediately dumps it back into the motor oil. And I screamed and was like, don't do that. And I got harassed and, got told that I was harassing her But that's the most stupid thing that you could possibly do. This is terrible stuff that's coming out of this catch can. But enough of that. People just blow me away sometimes. I mean, the world is just full of, maybe that's what makes it, spice of life and makes it more interesting, is there's just so many people, and there's so many wacky people. But I'll clean that out with a rag, but here we go. Now that's like 3 times. It's honestly like, maple syrup. It's not 100% consistency of your motor oil, because there's water vapor in there as the motor gets hot and cold. You get moisture that gets into the motor, builds up in the motor, and it gets expelled out as the crank and the piston rods are moving and churning that oil down in the bottom. And so that gets all blended together and then gets sent through the PVC, and obviously, we know where it ends up. But that's enough evidence right there. Stop being a freaking moron, and understand what a catch can does and how it's useful, and don't dismiss an oil catch can as a gimmick or something you don't need. Even non-turbo and supercharged cars are benefiting from oil catch cans. Again, I highly recommend the Mishimoto catch can because it has this gold 50 micron filter, and I can see it right here. It maybe needs to be taken off and cleaned. I just don't know. But there's a diverter plate and the filter, so that when that stuff, the goo and the atomized moisture and the oil vapor and the water gets caught and then gets contained in the can. It's just as simple as that. Okay, enough talk. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this made you think a little bit, and check in for more videos on my 2019 Infiniti Q50S Signature Edition 3.0T rear wheel drive. All right, bye-bye.